hello, listeners. How are you doing this week?
That's our beginning, is it?
Is it hello, listeners? That's
Hello, listeners. I'm doing fine, thank you for asking. How are you doing? Oh, that's great.
It's a Dora the Explorer style opening.
You know what? It's fine. I'm gonna leave that as the
it.
opening because I can never be bothered to do openings.
Yeah, I was about to say, where's my abusive uncle? Is it Hugh?
Oh God!
Nah, it's fine.
Instead of I been your uncle.
Hello, listener. Well, because you're my drunk uncle. Hello, listeners. Welcome to the anime podcast. I'm hijacking this opening, which I'm glad to do because I'm the drunken uncle again, visiting your earwaves. And much like last time when I brought someone to watch you, as I did my thing, I brought someone else to watch you this time as well. Would you like to introduce yourself, Joseph?
Hi, I'm Joe. I'm going to be one of the guests in this one. I know they've made terrible decisions before and they'll do it again. But, yep. I'm one of his big Weeb friends, and it's going to be hopefully bringing something to this.
For those of you wondering, Joe is the ghost voice that occasionally speaks to Lewis.
Joe's got 3 accolades. Number 1, he's the ghost voice. Number 2, he actually brought all of anime to anime because we used his Crunchyroll account for the entirety of 2 years. And thirdly, he's the most Asian among us, which gives him power.
The interesting thing about the Crunchyroll thing is, I also never went to that university.
Ironically, he may be the most Asian out of all of us, but I actually speak more Japanese than he
Is
that ironic or appropriate?
Appropriate, I think, yeah. It's like Samurai Cop. You're the most Asian-looking guy, but you're American, and vice versa.
Oh no!
Yeah, I was about to say.
No.
Speaking of speaking multiple languages, did you know that Alastair can't yell for help in multiple languages when I'm around?
And as always, I'm Hugh. I'm this podcast's equivalent of that video game bit during a loading screen where you can play around with a picture or an item. I entertain you for about 30 seconds before the actual interesting stuff starts.
I personally quite like the Crash Bandicoot Twin Racing version of that, where you could burp and fart and it would change pitch depending on the position of your analog stick.
Oh, that's pretty good.
You would like that.
I was also a big fan of the Dragon Ball Z Fighter ones, because you would always wreck your hands before you actually do it, so you make your friends do it and then beat them while they couldn't move their hands.
That's pretty cool.
Always good. And you may be wondering why someone is being very quiet.
Yeah, also joining us is a headache.
It's a headache.
It's your boy still.
And
If we're doing video game analogies, I guess you can compare me to the annoying Navi character that crops up and yells really loud when you don't want it to.
as in, there's a surprising amount of porn of you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I was about to say, so that's Hugh and Ben's video game equivalent. Joe's video game equivalent is like, I don't know, like the Tiki mask in Crash Bandicoot, where
That's the Navi character, isn't it?
No. But he's radical, and he gives you
is.
invulnerability when you get 3 of him. I'm like
ethnic.
and
Shit, you're right.
I'm sorry, Joe.
From now on, my only response to every question will be Ooga Booga.
Yeah, there you go. It's like, tell me everyone else's brain there went a bit. Was that racist?
I can't wait for
I don't
this
think
video
it
to
was
get
racist.
demonetized.
Oh no!
Oh god!
It's fine. I haven't monetized
Yeah.
any of these anyway, so it's not an issue.
To be fair, Joe is the ethnic mask which I put on, which protects me from all outside evils, particularly Polynesian themed ones.
It's fantastic because what we've done is we've diversified again.
Excellent.
Nice.
Alastair, you should
Yeah,
probably introduce yourself as the host.
I'm Alastair. I'm technically the host of this podcast, and I'm introducing myself last. Woohoo!
It's
Order of impulse.
all that is shall be.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So,
I don't know what I'm the video game equivalent of. I have no idea.
You're the video game
The Force Romance.
New Game Plus. You are at the end.
You are the video game equivalent of that time whenever you played an N64 game, accidentally changed the language option, and couldn't figure out how to get back.
I thought you were going to say the end that part in the N64 game where it stopped working, so you had to blow it.
Yeah.
Well,
Also, for some reason, he's got 3 limbs.
I should probably, at this point, it might be worth actually introducing the topic of the podcast, which there have been several hints towards the topic of this podcast from everybody's descriptions and whatnot. This podcast is about
Background order, baby.
Is this
We're
going to
talking
just
about
be?
video games.
We're
That's
talking
right,
about
about
video
video
games.
We're talking about
right.
video games.
That's right. I'm reusing jokes.
We are.
Much like
not
kids games.
Not
Yeah.
even funny ones.
Yeah, today we're talking about video games, listeners.
Specifically anime video
Yeah.
games.
But and trust me when I say we actually just had an argument. Well, not an argument. We just had a discussion about what even is a fucking weeb game.
I bought Yakuza and started playing it so that I could have things to talk about on this podcast. And about 5 minutes before we started recording, someone told me that Yakuza no longer counted.
Yeah, because apparently I was told that, oh no, it's got to relate perfectly to anime. Oh.
Who even said that to you? I think you. Dude, no, that's the point, dude. I don't give a fuck. You talk about whatever you fucking please. But no, so
Okay.
today we're talking about otaku shit, basically.
Yeah.
Hence why we brought Joe. Joe's played every video game.
Under the sun.
I'm getting there.
He is to his credit getting there.
Ironically, he's yet to play Pokemon.
That's not true.
Just
That's right. That's right. No, please.
He just keeps looking at
Please
it going,
stop.
"Yet another day," and then he goes back to masturbating on stream.
Oh, God. Let's not do that. Let's not go there.
I do one of those things and it isn't stream.
Or maybe it is a stream. Wow.
Wrangle, Alastair, wrangle.
Yes, I'm gonna wrangle. So I think we should get this show on the road. We'll
Yeah.
start with Lewis's chosen game of choice.
So my game of choice that we're going to talk, or one of them at the very least, and we'll see how we're doing for time. One of them that I picked was Kingdom Hearts as a sort of like conglomeration of the massive cesspool that is the fucking actual lore of this game. Hugh, you've never played Kingdom Hearts before,
I
have you?
have never played Kingdom.
Right. Let me give you.
If I remember correctly, is it a mixture of Disney and Final Fantasy?
Yes, essentially. It's Square Enix and Disney, and basically the story is that there is Mickey Mouse, basically, and he belongs to the Kingdom of Light, and he's got all the Disney bitches who are being wholesome, and then various Disney characters like get together and then beat people to death with keys, right? Now, importantly, it must be said, I've picked this, and it's kind of like, oh my god. I've picked this primarily because I've only actually recently gotten into it. Joe knows a fair bit about it, but critically, I think it's got a lot to juxtapose because it literally is a joining of East and West. It has literally got Disney and Square Enix coming together. Anime's been made of it, and in a weird sort of twist of fate, and why I think it's relevant to this podcast, it's generally agreed upon that the original Japanese like content, like the stuff they made up for the game, is vastly superior to the Disney content.
Yeah.
So my question of this is, how did this come about? Because it seems like a very strange
Elevator
An
pitch.
elevator ride.
Let's go. Like, because
Genuine
I-
elevator pitch.
I get that Japan has a thing for Disney, like Tokyo Disneyland is a thing, but
Yeah.
like if I had no idea about video games and someone walked up to me and said, "Mr. Hugh, there is a video game where,"
People call you Mr. Hugh.
that's because I don't want to say my surname during this podcast. So, Mr. Hugh,
What, Thoy
So-
called Burston?
yeah, basically, Mr. Hugh. There is a video game that exists where the mascots of the enormous Disney Corporation go around and try and solve different problems in various Disney-related areas, and I'm thinking so far so normal, with a bunch of anime protagonists from Final Fantasy, including a guy with giant clown shoes, and he hits things with keys.
He hits things with keys, and the game is renowned for its massively depressing story.
Like, I don't know, like, just everything about this game makes me think, like, how did it genuinely come about? Like, elevator pitch, but that's such a weird one. Who in their head thought, that'll work? Like,
You know what, Joseph, do you want to take it from here? Because you know the names and details a bit better than I do on this one.
Not really, actually.
Okay.
hey,
Way, already
we've
let me
brought him
down.
on and he's already failed.
I know the games, I don't know its developments. I can tell you that originally it was going to be a chainsaw and not a key.
Really?
Oh
Yeah.
man, that's rad.
That's... I like the So I get the feeling that someone at Disney looked at the original beta and went, "No."
Loads of the original beta. Imagine the merchandising opportunities, and thing is, it's Disney, so you can see it being as cold as it would be cheaper to produce a toy with no moving parts, or moving to a more key-based model,
And not just the concept of we really rather not have even our villains get chainsawed up.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but
the lead director is Tetsuya Nomura. I don't know which side approached who of it. I think it was someone from Disney. Literally got into the elevator with him. Yep. And then they just said, "I'd really like to work. It'd be awesome if we worked on a game together at some point." And he went, "Yeah, it would. Show me now."
This is originally on the PS2, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
PS-
first one is PS2.
yeah,
What year did this come out?
2004, I believe, because we're 2003, because we're reaching the 15th anniversary of people
So
yelling.
we at the time had quite a bit of Final Fantasy.
yes,
yeah.
very much so.
I think we would have been Final Fantasy 10.
Oh, so we really are getting quite far up there then.
Yeah.
Yeah, 10 or 11.
The thing is, I think the Final Fantasy is felt throughout the entire experience, particularly just because, relating to the whole anime thing, the actual combat itself was a fairly standard hack and slash sort of affair. Not much
So it's
story.
a Japanese video game.
Yeah, it is a Japanese video game. Not much story is really told through its actual mechanics, which is kind of standard RPG fare. Instead, the majority of the story is delivered to you, if I'm being a little bit honest, kind of ad nauseum, as it is essentially like you will finish a level and then you are vomited onto the screen of essentially an anime cutscene for about 20 minutes, and then you're dropped back again. It's not bad. It's just jarring.
It's not quite Metal Gear Solid, but yeah.
So a Japanese video game.
So
And
a
the
Japanese video game.
And the sort of question I want to ask actually is because although it's very interesting, you got this kind of meeting of East and West. An important point to make, I think, throughout the entirety of the game is why. Because everyone generally agrees that the Eastern content is better than the Western in it. So I suppose I would pose the question that if you ever do a collaboration project like this, like, are you owed to stick to your canon, or should you abandon the fucking thing?
I personally,
I will throw that question out as well to our two silent Coca Patriots.
I would like to point out to those listening that Ben has got a headache and Alastair is recovering from a night of drinking. And silence.
Well, it's also because I don't really have anything to say about Kingdom
I
I'm
Hearts.
just trying to
the
involve
truth.
you in the conversation. If you've got something a crossover, or if you've got something which is inspired by a different idea, do you owe anything to that idea? For example, despite Devilman Crybaby's immense popularity, the first intro to the West that Devilman got was 009 versus Devilman, which is a crossover series. Which you can currently find on Netflix.
I believe
And I'm
the
saying
first intro the West actually got was Akira Fudo.
well, yeah, but like
the
popularized,
really
yeah.
bad dub.
It's my old friend
1972.
Rio!
How the hell have you been?
The dub is a treasure. The dub is simply a
It
treasure.
is a treasure.
I'm Devilman!
I mean, I've been watching a lot of the old dub this week because Lewis got me onto Devilman no Uta. And so I've just been
As I
listening
want
to
to do.
the occasional thing. But like to actually
Steering
answer
the
your
ship
question-
back.
Yeah.
To answer your actual question, I think when crossing over, I feel you should have some kind of obligation to honor both sides of your crossover. Because if you don't honor both sides of your crossover equally, then what is the point of the crossover? I'd argue that at that point it's no longer a crossover. It's an episode or a game or a movie of a franchise that is selectively nitpicking from something else.
Yeah.
So with Kingdom Hearts, like from what I've seen, it does quite faithfully pick from both sides. That you do have a lot of Final Fantasy and a lot of Kingdom Hearts. Now, is it actually in the Final Fantasy universe, or is it a different universe?
No.
It's in its own universe.
There is more Disney, I would argue.
Yeah, Disney functions as the settings for most of the worlds in Kingdom Hearts. Aside from one or two original ones, your characters will go to the Disney world.
Yeah, you'll go to
Catches
Atlanta.
up in that story. They typically will tell the story of the first film of that.
Most areas have got their own unique mechanics, which are all generally shit.
Like what?
That's
It's such as when you go to China in Mulan and your health, you essentially have another health bar that's constantly going down unless you pick up items that you get from hitting enemies. The enemy designs are fantastic and the mechanics are solid. It's just very, I'd argue, quite generic hack and slash fare as long as it's tied to Disney. It feels like the moment that the combat engine team were told, do what you want, design your own enemies, it gets about 10 times better.
Yeah.
So essentially, it's a game that when allowed to make the game they actually want to make, as opposed to being held down by a design debrief, it becomes a better experience.
Yeah. Which is why I would go on. Sorry, Joe.
which I'd say is Disney's fault because they are their stance on anything. They're not allowed. I don't think the Square team were allowed to change anything of the actual Disney stuff, which is why
Disney are kind of like that. Their properties, they're very just like you can't do anything with them because the point of the image that they represent and the fact of like the wholesome family image that they put across, you can't make their characters start doing.
I'd also argue that Disney is currently the only studio that still has
that power,
like a specific role that it has in the filmmaking industry. If I said what sort of films do Universal, 20th Century Fox, Lionsgate, what do they make? You can't put your finger down on it.
You have no idea how sad. You have no idea how sad it was when you said you didn't say the Weinstein Company. I could say, well, they're not going to be making any films after a little while.
Oh God! But if I said what sort of films do the Disney Company make, you will immediately sit down and say wholesome, animated, family-friendly films with the occasional live-action one sprinkled in there for good measure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the live-action ones is what throws me for six, because it's always like when I look at it and I'm like, okay, so you got your Final Fantasy style, you got your Disney style, and there's Captain Jack Sparrow because fuck me, I guess.
Wait, really?
It is Disney.
Terribly voice acted.
Terribly voice acted, and bringing it back for Kingdom Hearts 3.
Could they change?
Although admittedly it looks 100 times better than it did previously.
Could they genuinely not scrape together the £500,000 it takes to get Johnny Depp into a room for half a day to record?
Yeah, but even if you did at this point, it would sound bad because even Johnny Depp's performances nowadays feel like they're phoning it, like he's phoning it in.
Oh god! Like, did we all see fucking James Earl Jones in Rogue One and how his voice is nothing like
please no.
Well, the big thing is about it is one thing that the people always forget again. Despite the fact that they're taking a lot of Disney stuff, it's originally made and is originally voiced in Japanese. And so the dub voice actors, despite being a big thing that obviously will have a lot of thought put into it, it's not the main actors as far as they're concerned. So they're not going to go and think we'll sink this much money into the A-list English dub star, because they'd instead be thinking we'll sink that much money into the Japanese dub star.
This is always interesting. This is always interesting when it comes down to like different dubs for a video game, because
funnily enough, we picked a good one.
Yeah, for anime, like when an English dub or French dub or whatever is produced, it is usually produced by a company which has marketed and owns the rights to that show in the said company that it's producing the dub for. Does a similar thing happen for video games, or because video games are a much more worldwide commodity, is the dub wholly dictated to by the producer of that video game?
Well, it's funny you should mention that, actually, because of all the games to pick, we have actually picked Kingdom Hearts. Because as Joe will also be able to attest for me in a second, in case I miss anyone, Kingdom Hearts has probably got one of the biggest all-star casts of any video game I can think of. And essentially, like, I think that dictation likely did come from a voice director. Do you want to know what my hypothesis for that comes from? The fact that I genuinely think that someone loved this project enough, because the voice actress they get for, Alice in Wonderland, like the original, the original black and white Alice in Wonderland.
Yes,
they got her in to voice Alice in the game. Like, she's 85 or whatever, and they got her in to do it.
Huh. How does that sound?
She sounds great. She sounds fine.
Exactly. as you described them.
And the thing is that in addition to
I
that
need to look at
character, there is also Mark Hamill, Christopher Lee, and
Leonard Nimoy.
Leonard Nimoy, the latter two voiced great villains. And it's worth saying that the game has been delayed for so long that its voice actor cast has died before the game has come out in some cases.
God.
Which is a shame, because there's some great voice actors.
Yep.
And the other weird thing is that although they'll hire these massive voice actors, I do think that this is from a production coach, because the voice actress for Aqua has kind of just got this weird, like, European accent that you can't place, and she has appeared in fucking nothing besides being a super major character in this game series. What were you
Also appears in Green Arrow.
And that's it. But yeah, what were you going to say, Benny?
I was going to say, like, the mention of Mark Hamill and Leonard Nimoy and stuff like that. It's, once again, it's due to the Disney tie-in. Because it's the same with how they got Mark Hamill for Joker in the Batman games, because of the Warner Brothers tie-in, and Mark Hamill was currently working on projects with Warner Brothers, and so he had a tie-in with that, and they had easy access to him, and it was like easy put in with the game. Obviously, Mark Hamill has the tie-in with Star Wars. Disney bought Star Wars, easy tie-in.
He was Mark Hamill. Mark Hamill was in Kingdom Hearts around about 2007, which was well before any of the Disney stuff.
Who did he play?
He
plays Master Ericus, who is the protagonist of the PSP game Birth by Sleep. He is their master.
Okay.
Lest we forget as well, true enough, that could be I'll say it could be the case, obviously, for Christopher Lee and Nimoy, to be sure, but of course, Mark Hamill, I'd argue, has had a more prolific voice acting career than he ever has.
I'd argue he has a more prolific voice acting career than acting career.
Yeah, the only big thing he's ever acted in is
the
obvious Star Wars. Everything else, all his other major roles are voice acting.
I'd argue that he is amongst at least the geek community the quintessential Joker.
Yep.
To the mainstream people, it's probably a bit of an argument. I think to the geek community, Mark Hamill is the Joker, and
people like Heath.
Well, he's the only one they've asked to reprise his role across multiple formats, because he does the cartoon and the game.
Heath Ledger.
Thank you, Ben.
Thanks, Ben.
Wait, was that a Heath Ledger joke I missed?
Well, Joe was like, he's the only one they've asked to do multiple over multiple different platforms.
Oh, God.
I was like, so they kind of couldn't with Heath Ledger, to be honest with you.
Come on, Heath, return our calls. Keep us waiting.
It's just.
Where is he? Where is Joker? No.
It's just Warner Brothers just sat at the phone going, that's weird. He's not picking up.
I like the idea that it's literally the Warner Brothers, as in both of them are sat there on the phone, just like he's not picking up for me either.
They've come back to life, and they're like, if we can do it, why can't he?
Jesus Christ! I don't want to imagine the idea of an immortal movie, Zach. But anyway, so as my slowly unfurling point about Kingdom Hearts moves on, the general point I wanted to make was about this whole crossover thing. Because, as we've already said, you certainly do owe something to your source material. And I can't really think of many other series where you have crossovers, particularly. I swear they used to be more common, particularly in the sort of like Western cartoon industry. But I'm guessing I'm guessing that's because all of these cartoon studios were presumably next door to each other. I was saying, obviously, we'll come on to yours in a second, Hugh.
Thank you.
We'll come on to yours in a second. Obviously, you find this a lot more in the sort of fighting games because it's a lot more obvious the sort of character action as far as fighting goes. The point I would like to make is that you'd think that crossing over with anything that's well established should improve the canon. Whereas I'd like to make the argument that in Kingdom Hearts, the involvement of Disney kind of dilutes the whole sort of experience. My proof for this is the best part of Kingdom Hearts is neither a game and involves nothing to do with Disney. It is of course 358 of 2 days, which is a film comprised of the events of one of the side games. It has nothing to do with the original plot. It's got nothing to do with. Are you motherfuckers like done? I'll stop. I'll stop and wait. alright. That's alright.
Would you like to read out what's written?
Yeah, sure. Right, let's start. Anyway, right. So my voice for Hugh will be this ASMR Hugh sort of voice, and the one for Ben will be like a really derisive, shitty voice. Thanks, Hugh. I was incapable of scrolling up a little. Fuck you, Ben. I tried. I put a heart on everything. Love you. Love you too, Bubba. Wanna cyber. Always. There we go. Gucci.
Me and Ben love each other.
Man,
so
why'd you
much.
make me sound like a fucking one of those Indian Desi cosplay people on house videos?
I was
Wait.
wondering-
Indian
Wait,
Desi
hang on.
cosplay
That is-
neckbeards Reddit.
What?
That right there is deep.
Hey, I'm sure.
That's a tier 5.
Hey,
meme, if
there's
anything.
that's tier 5 meme. And Ben, you know how you sound different when you talk compared to your recorded? That is how you sound. Like,
You know how you sound
Oh.
different from what you talk and what your recorded voice sounds like. Ben, that's what you sound like.
that is exactly what I just said to you.
Oh,
Like, verbatim. That is.
No.
Oh,
that was word for word.
sorry.
Are you
sorry,
paying
look.
attention to a word I am saying?
I mean, sometimes.
Stop typing! Stop it! I thought we put aside this time to podcast, not to fuck around. He's still
So
typing.
anyway, Kingdom Hearts 358 over 2 days was Lewis's introduction to the Kingdom Hearts series via me, showing because it was for his other characters.
And is actually good. And basically, it involves nothing to do with Disney and involves nothing to do with the actual games themselves.
Is it just set in the universe?
It is a film set in the universe and is essentially a prequel to one of the villains that you actually find later on in the series.
Okay.
And it shows, like, well, one of the major villain organizations in the game is a lot called Organization 13, which are 13 members, and it kind of chronicles
That's actually
them.
quite a cool name.
Yeah, I'll say I do recommend you watch it.
They're the best group of characters in the entire series.
By far, by a mile. And they all come together, and interestingly enough, they actually sit as a prime example of one of my most hated tropes, which is they're emotionless. That's the point. But it's in a sort of like Darker Than Black-esque kind of way, and I don't make that comparison lightly, because they are told they have no emotions, they are told that they are like brainless, like psychopaths, but they all very clearly demonstrate this emotion. It's about them finding it over time. And the point I would like to make, and the reason why I think this translates well to anime, is because I would argue that Kingdom Hearts would actually be much better off in an animated medium, where rather than doing this hack and slash combat, which honestly feels like it's been stapled on, the writers who are really good at their job can do whatever shot choreography they want to, and rather than being shackled to the Disney scheme, they can actually do what they want with the project. And I think it would make for a better anime. And critically, it makes for a better property in spite of its massive, huge conglomeration that it's partnered with, which only actually dilutes the experience. And
Now-
yeah,
Sorry, no, go on.
that's pretty much my point. That's pretty
I
much
mean-
Now, my question to that is then, why if Kingdom Hearts has the specific problems that you have stated, why is it that Kingdom Hearts 3 is considerably eagerly anticipated amongst many groups of gamers?
To be fair, my opinions are typically derisive anyway.
Well,
But,
you'll
You
find
think-
there's a lot of people. It
Yep.
it depends on how you look at it, because a lot of our perspective is from the anime perspective. That's the kind of the side of that game that we're looking at, and whereas other people will be looking at it from a video game perspective and a Western perspective, at which point they want the Disney characters. They want those characters that they know
Yeah.
from their childhood and they love and all of that
It's,
sort of
it's,
stuff.
it's just that this.
A majority of us are actually just waiting to finish the end of the story because we've been
Oh, and the
invested for the
story
past.
not finished, right?
No.
That does help explain it. Because
As someone who's, I've been part of the Kingdom Hearts community since its inception.
Because this is a game that got rolled out at the beginning of this console generation. Literally, when unveiling at E3 the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox in much more detail, Kingdom Hearts 3 was one of the games that turned up as a here you go, we're doing this. And it's been
It's been several years
4
since
to
then.
5, 6 years since then, and we still have not got a game. And I don't know
Yeah.
when it's coming out. I don't know if it's coming
It
out.
would-
January. It's coming out in
Yeah.
January.
January.
Because
So-
it was at
so what-
E3 last. That I was in this E3 just gone.
Because I've seen some gameplay for it, and I will admit the gameplay looks incredibly fluid and well put together. But it's just a video game being in development hell for so long, but actually having a presence throughout said development hell is very interesting to me.
Yeah.
You look at something like The Last Guardian that was unveiled in I think it was about 2008.
Something like that.
And then went almost bone dead silent, apart from the occasional Sony executive poking their head out the woodwork, going, "Don't worry, it still exists," and then poking their head back into the woodwork, and the entire community after a couple of years going, "Yeah, that thing's dead," and then it
Or
turning
we
up
don't
at
care.
yeah, and then it turning up at E3 7 or 8 years after it was first announced, to the point where the entire community, when it eventually turned up, it turned up with gameplay, and everybody went insane. Kingdom Hearts has been there for about 5 years, but in a presence, and I think it's just weird that it's taken so long.
Do you want to know the other very similar story to that, which ties in very nicely?
Final
I'd
Fantasy
love
15.
to.
Final Fantasy 15.
Yes, Final Fantasy 15 is a good one.
No, it's
it's
the best one.
Wasn't that
because-
supposed to be on the PS3?
Yes. Originally.
Yes, also the same team worked on it, which is why Kingdom Hearts 3 took so long.
Oh,
It's the
okay,
same-
so
It is the same team are making both games. They are both the same Square Enix team who did it, and
okay,
they-
so it's kind of like they were working on Kingdom
They-
Hearts 3 and finishing off 15 kind of at the same time.
well, they started development almost at the same time, and then they were told to focus on one instead of the other, and then both went into development hell for a long ass time. You have to remember this was back when Final Fantasy they went into development when Final Fantasy 13 came out, because it was meant to be a sister title. It was called Final Fantasy Versus 13.
Really? I genuinely did not know that.
Yeah, they had trailers all around at similar times.
I genuinely did not know that. I'm clearly not in on my.
Oh, no, it's
I
fine.
played and loved 15.
The reason that 15 got a air quotes rushed release at the end was because the main director for 15 was the director on Kingdom Hearts. And he really did love the project, but he eventually got pulled off of the project, and it all pretty much fell apart there, which is why at that point the replacement director and co-directors wanted to get the game out on budget and on time.
They just shouted, "Get it out as quickly as humanly."
Yeah, to just get it out as made as possible, which is why
Which is-
they both had such a storied history.
Which is also why, for those who have seen the trailers, Riku's new outfit in Kingdom Hearts 3 looks just a little bit very similar to Noctis's.
So consequently, I would like to make the argument then that the best part of a Kingdom Hearts property is that indeed the animation bit. But I can accept why people would want it, because A, they've been waiting for the game for ages, and B, an important part about this is that I've been introduced into the most cherry-picked bits of the Kingdom Hearts story. The Kingdom Hearts story has unfurled and was not especially... I'll say it wasn't especially coherent together, or indeed even planned and competent in the first couple of games. It was only after a grand unifying side game that it all started to come together as quite a cohesive, good, overarching narrative.
I mean, we're waiting for Kingdom Hearts 3, but God, how many Kingdom Hearts games have there actually been?
1, Chain of Memories, 2, Birthplace Sleep, Recoded, 358 over 2 days, Dream Drop Distance. Are we counting
1.5, 1 3/4, whatever it's called.
I wouldn't count this because those are just HD remasters.
33 1/3.
9 and 3/4.
Three laughs there, all in all,
Excluding remakes, I'd say we're about 9.
which is a
Which-
lot for a game.
yeah,
that's
and a
no,
mobile- and a mobile game.
Yeah,
I don't know.
a lot of games for one that's getting its third main game releasing next year.
Please
Yeah.
remember this is Square Enix and the Final Fantasy team.
Well, I suppose it's like Dynasty Warriors, isn't it? It's like Dynasty Warriors 9, it's like Dynasty Warriors 50.
But yeah, so that's my argument, and I think that's why Kingdom Hearts is worth talking about, because its best content would be better made as an anime. And I think that for a modern audience, I think that without the goodwill that the series has earned over the course of decades at this point, I think that it would not be given as warm of a critical reception. And I think that generally, if you've got an idea, just because you got a good idea, just because you've got a juggernaut backing you, means that you should listen to it. The air quotes indie game that is Kingdom Hearts is kind of surrounded by a big flabby shell of Disney's meaty paws. And I think that it's important to remember that whenever assessing a project like this, that smaller can be better.
And I think that
Not sure what happened there, but I'm back.
And I think that wraps up Kingdom Hearts quite
That-
nicely.
that-
with a little bow.
Yeah.
That wraps it up for me.
Perfect.
What did I miss?
That no one's gone into yet. And
Well, if I was going to bring up, I'd say my favorite part of it would be the music.
My
Like-
favorite part is the memes.
my favorite part of it is not even something that Kingdom Hearts did itself. It's something that it kind of birthed that other people made, and that's Parking Lot Kingdom Hearts. And that's just something
You've shown me that.
And that's just something I think everyone should go and enjoy.
Thank you, Ben, for taking my poignant point and making it Super Saiyan.
You're welcome, Lewis.
But no, like, anyway.
I like to think if people like Lewis can sit there, find such deep meaning and
in parking lots.
such greatness in like this video game, and then go out and record the most cringy 1 minute and 39 seconds I've ever had the pleasure of watching in my life,
It's
then
sad that,
it was all worthwhile.
it's sad that my internet is just about slow enough that I can't do the podcast and watch something on YouTube at the same time to see what you mean. Because when I do that, the YouTube load and everyone just starts going in my headphones.
That's not Discord. That's just us laughing at it.
Yeah.
No, I'm not
It's
saying
there
that,
for
Hugh,
later.
Hugh, you're just
Thank
having a
you.
stroke.
I can smell burning toast. Actually, not just because I'm a terrible.
He's definitely having a stroke.
Oh no.
One of my kids walked into my room yesterday and said, "Sir, I smell burning toast," and I was just like,
You're dying.
For anyone who doesn't know, Hugh does not actually have children. He is a teacher.
Yes, they
Allegedly.
They
As
know.
I have,
I've
as
never
I,
actually seen him teach.
Me neither. But
probably.
I have.
I haven't.
why are you breaking into his school, Ben?
Yeah, I'll say Ben. For some reason, I don't know why, but the moment you said that you've seen him teach, it became sinister, and I feel that's more me judging you than me
Well,
judging
that's because I'm not allowed within 100 meters of any schools.
Oh.
I mean, that's just because you're not allowed to put 100 meters of any parking permits.
Oh yeah, shit, it was I do often get parking permits in schools mixed up, Hugh. Thank you for the correction.
Well,
I mean,
to be fair,
stop stealing wheels, man.
I was saying, to be fair,
because-
he does drive through both on a daily basis.
Oh dear. And Alastair,
it was always awkward as a child when I'd show up every day to the parking permit ready to learn. And
yeah, Alastair. What is the next game we are going to be discussing?
Next, we move on to
It's
Ben's
pick,
game.
I believe.
yes, it's Ben's game.
Whee! Ben's game that's not even allowed. So
For those of you who are wondering, Ben is not allowed to talk about Deadly Premonition.
I am.
Oh, is that the one you're picking?
Well, I no, I'll bring it up later because I'm a filthy
Which one is the one you're
degenerate.
not allowed to talk about?
All
Oh
of them.
no, I'm allowed to. Neither technically, apparently.
Yep.
Well done.
Yep.
Go on.
Woo!
Sorry.
We're now going to stand. We're going to sit in awkward silence for the next hour.
Yeah,
and then
I like how I sit there and I'm like, neither of these games are anime. Are we sure we should talk about them? And Ben's like, well, that's me done for life. Time to fucking kill myself.
I mean,
don't worry. That's just Ben.
we did bring it up literally 4 minutes before we started recording. As I'm
Yeah,
like, well,
yeah,
fuck me.
I'm just fucking memeing, dude. I don't give a fuck about anything you picked.
Oh, neither do I.
Well, anyway, just do what you want. Just do. As long as you can tangentially bring it back, it's fine.
Oh, fuck me. The salt's gonna give me fucking. Oh,
Kidney
Really
stone.
good shit.
Dehydration,
Nah, it's fine. The joke dropped. Just like.
The shit.
just like your applause.
Just like my depression.
Ah!
Alright, fuck it. I'm gonna talk about Yakuza because Yakuza's a good game series.
It's fine.
So-
yeah.
Right.
So, Yakuza is a series, funnily enough, about a Yakuza, mainly following one character throughout most of the series called Kazuma Kiryu, who is a young orphaned child who ends up in the Yakuza life and has quite a honorable code in Japan. And it kind of branches out and has a lot of intrigue in how the Yakuza works, a really interesting and intricate fighting system with really cool styles and really cool combat and ways of going through, a really interesting story that has a mixture of like politics interweaved with actual Japanese politics and the Yakuza politics and the brutality that comes with that and the life that goes in. But none of that's the
yeah, I was
actual
about
game.
to say it's an
The
oddly
actual
violent.
game comes from the masses and masses of mini games and side stories and love that they throw into the world and those things I just mentioned in every single game that has. Oh, sorry, Hugh.
No. You were in the middle. Go on.
So they will have a intricate full game worth of something that could have been built into a full game of karaoke, pool, darts, hostess clubs, managing real estate officers, managing hostess clubs, also visiting hostess clubs. That's why
Construction.
Construction. Yeah. Majima Construction, fight clubs, go-karts, pocket circuit racing,
and
actual old video games.
And everything
genuine old Sega video games.
Do you know what?
Such as Virtual Fighter, which they have the entire game of, and like weird blob Tetris that I remember from my childhood.
Batting cages.
It's essentially an
Outrun, batting cages, yeah.
It's an oddly violent hostess club minigame game.
That's just Kiwami too.
So
Kiwami-ta!
So just after we had decided that we were going to do this podcast, and Yakuza was thrown out there, I had never played a Yakuza game.
Yeah.
And I went. To those of you who don't know, I went last weekend to visit Lewis. And we had a nice ripe old time.
I'd like to believe people didn't know that, otherwise it'd be slightly creepy.
We had a nice ripe old time.
We had a great time.
We had a really good time, and we went to the Pottery Shopping Centre in Stoke-on-Trent, where we went to Game, and we bought
living it all
games where Lewis.
I forced him at gunpoint.
He basically forced me to buy Yakuza because I said.
Zero.
I either said I want to buy Nier Automata or Yakuza.
Why did you not get both?
I did because Lewis told me that if I didn't get both, he was going to force me to get both or buy it for me.
It's okay. It's okay, Hugh. Lewis also bought Yakuza 0 for me as well.
And he's yet to play it.
So I bought them. So I've been playing.
And so he just plays old Fire Emblem games.
So I've been playing Yakuza 0 for the last.
I like Fire Emblem.
In terms of story, I am barely about an hour into the story. However, I have played 14 hours because I can't stop playing the mini games.
Because they're just too good.
They are really good.
Have you had the amazing scene yet where Kiryu drop kicks a guy out a window
God,
hard, he throws himself out the window and only just manages to grab on?
Yeah. Yes, I've had that part of it yet. But it's just like I posted on the chat, like we have a Facebook chat we all talk in, and I just posted on the chat that I was doing this and that I refused to stop until I get 90 plus and back in me tie, and Ben just responded with my boy. And that has been in my head the entire week. And the combat's great.
Well, because we for a con on the weekend we played about 4.5 hours of Magic the Gathering. During the entirety of that, I just had a playlist of all of the Yakuza 0 karaoke tracks playing in the background.
Beautiful. Is that complete with transformation sequences?
Yep.
And it was like I love the bit when we were watching it and Back and Me Tie was on, and Lewis just kind of looks over to it, and I've never seen any of this before. He looks over to it and just goes, "Oh, what's he looking at today?" And I have absolutely no idea what he's talking about. He says, "Oh, it's just the orphanage," and goes back to playing.
I forgot I said that. That's actually quite. I can understand how if you had not seen that before.
There's an altered one where in one of them that you can get
I
where it's
literally had
nugget.
no idea what you were talking about. It was just a good bit of karaoke and just, oh, it's that again. And just going back to play, I'm like, I don't know what this is.
Oh man.
So we watched it. As a side note, at the Pottery Shopping Centre, I bought a cracked pot for 5p in the heart of a dying Poundland.
The heart of a dying Poundland.
Yeah.
Did you have you also managed to get one of the oat cakes, Liz?
Yes, a shit. But they're basically non-sweet pancakes. Yeah, it's a bit dull. But no, so we did that, and then Hugh bought Yakuza. Interestingly, I know a shit ton about Yakuza because I've watched it played and watched Ben play it. I've never played it. I've never actually held a controller and played a Yakuza
Oh no, you
game.
have.
Except for that one time, yeah, except for one time where we played Yakuza 4.
Every cutscene you could and tried to make as much sense out of what you were doing as possible with the information you were given.
Which was hilarious because you were sat there dying in the seat next to me as I was covering hours of content in minutes, but you were sat there like because I was sat there like, what the fuck is going on? And you're like, you have missed so much, which I dare say could actually be our maybe a little bit of our anime link, because despite the immense fun that Yakuza is in fucking around, its main plot and its side stories are fairly disconnected and they're not terribly mechanically related, and I dare say slightly more to the point, Yakuza's main plot has nothing to do with the game, like in terms of the side quests and everything else.
What are you talking about? The Yakuza War really has everything to do with training your dominatrix.
Yeah. But the thing is, like, yeah, I mean, I do that on a daily basis. But like the thing is, and the thing is,
yourself.
you know, Yakuza's shot composition and cutscenes are fairly famous for being quite good. Because they've got their very varied cutscenes look a bit strange. One could almost think that a particularly talented studio, such as David Productions or something like that, could take this concept and make a really, really, really good-looking, stylish anime.
Yeah.
Without having to with all the love in the world, messing around with the mini games, because you could make the argument that, I'm not saying for a second you should, but I'm saying that you could almost do a Final Fantasy where you release the main plot of Yakuza as essentially as an animated series, and then you have a game of fuckabouts.
The thing is,
I'm not saying that'd work, but
no. But the thing is that it also works with that as well, because with regards to the Japanese voice acting in it is infamously regarded as
amazing,
absolutely stunning Japanese voice acting. Especially video game wise, it is up there with some of the greatest that exists.
The voice acting in Yakuza is fucking incredible.
Up there with Batman Arkham Asylum levels of just excellent voice acting.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a shame that the dub didn't do the same. And
Harada!
The original...
You pretended to betray Nishiki.
You pretended to betray Nishiki and take sides with me.
But that's all right, do you?
Texas.
Oh,
I was.
That is Michael Madsen in the original Yakuza dub, and I guess
Michael Madsen, a genuinely good voice actor.
Good actor. Good actor.
Sorry, good actor. Miscast so horribly in the. I think actually Mark Hamill might have been in the Yakuza dub.
But the thing is, which kind of leads to the point where they had no idea what they were doing with the Yakuza dub. The Yakuza.
I don't think it's a good dub for Mark Hamill, because I think
they didn't know what they were doing.
Majima.
Ooh.
They did. They made him Majima.
Oh.
Well, the thing is, I feel like any dub for Yakuza is doomed from the start, because unlike something that is more animated style and you can be a bit more flexible with voices and whatnot, this is literally a thing where all the characters are literally made to... They are Japanese. They are made to look Japanese. They look like Japanese people.
It's not anime style.
No, it's not. It's realistic style.
It would you have a dub is doomed to fail from the start, because the voice is never going to match the characters, because the characters all look Japanese, so you expect them to speak Japanese.
Well, I'd argue that a dub isn't necessarily going to fail because of that. I'd say that it needs to have the same, if not greater, attention to detail put into it.
I will make one and only argument is that the Yakuza dub could have done perfectly if they knew what the tone or script of the Yakuza games were. Look at the original trailers of Yakuza. The West had no idea what to do with it. Absolutely none.
They sell it as this big one man betrayed by his friends set out to take on the entire Japanese Yakuza and fight to the top, build his clan from the ground up, and become the ultimate Yakuza. That's not even the story.
Yep, they had no idea what to do with it, and I'm willing to bet you that the ADR was sat there, and I no doubt was sat on the opposite side of a booth, was watching the screen and watching the cutscenes. And I imagine, because this is back in the day when East and West didn't really communicate terribly much with regards to games, and if I'm being honest, he probably looked at the screen, was given a vague sort of by the end of this scene, this needs to have happened, didn't get given a script, and presumably he went, well, fuck it, I mean, these characters are looking very serious and growling at each other, presumably they're being deadly serious, not understanding the stupidly camp tone that pervades all of fucking Yakuza.
Yeah, it's fucking glorious.
It's they're doing that, and then he's asked, "Can you do the karaoke scenes, please?"
Yeah, but presumably, I don't know. I couldn't talk any more than that on the subject, really. But that would be my estimation.
I would say that Yakuza, anyone that likes any form of action game, any form of game that has free roam about just fun, anyone that likes an intricate story or interesting plot hooks or gets hooked into characters or likes an RPG sort of thing system, I would say that Yakuza fits all of these for you, and you can ignore whichever parts you actually don't want if not all of them fit you.
Yeah.
And if all of them do fit you, then it may become your life for the next month or so. Up a game.
It makes me vomit in my mouth to even say a sentence like this, but assuming you're not a cretin, it really does have something for everyone.
Do you picking up giant objects and just hitting people with it?
Do you like turning up in Kiwami 2? Do you like going from one moment having a super serious fight where someone is assassinated in front of you in a graveyard as you're going to pray at a grave, and then someone shows up asking for help, gets shot dead in front of you and a kid, and then you're just like, shit, beat up the assassins, decide to go and help, and then decide to stop by Club Sega on the way and have a good old game of toilets in which you have to blow off a woman's skirt using your pee stream,
or just play a video game where you start off with an exceptionally hard, interesting narrative with all these interesting fights, and then having a character who decides that you are too weak, so will occasionally just pop up out of nowhere in order to fight you.
My favorite one
Mr. Shakedown.
Oh, I was talking about the Majima Anywhere system.
Yeah, the Majima Anywhere system.
Yeah.
The cab has got to be my favorite one of all of those.
Was it Ben or was it Lewis that told me about the cab?
Both of us.
Yeah, we both told you.
I told you about the one where I took a taxi ride, and then you go to get out of the taxi, you realise the door's locked, and you're like, "Hey, buddy, can I get out?" And then you look in the mirror, and it's just Majima.
I bought Zero, and I contacted Lewis a little while playing this, and I was like, "Yo, buddy, when's the Majima Anywhere system turn up?" And he had to tell me incredibly dishearteningly that it's not in Zero.
Well, to be fair, I'd tell you dishearteningly that instead you have to play as him.
Yeah, but I want to fight him.
Have you got to Majima yet?
No, not yet.
Dude, you will fucking love the first bit as Majima. It's glorious.
I can't wait. I genuinely cannot wait. I'm really enjoying the game. I'm genuinely really enjoying
it. Have you been doing all that pocket circuit racing?
I haven't done the pocket circuit racing yet. I've done.
My biggest advice will be do the pocket circuit racing, because Pocket Circuit Racer, the guy that runs the pocket circuit racing, is the most recurring character bar story characters I have ever seen.
Excellent.
Oh no.
And
Without,
I think
without trying to get too off topic there, shall we move our game along?
I was going to say,
Well, there was one
Yakuza,
question that I
unless-
wanted to ask, as just quickly, just because I feel like the answer has kind of been given, but I kind of want to, just more for my benefit and anybody who actually wants to know. If you wanted to start playing Yakuza, which game do you play?
You can start with Kiwami, because that is a remake of Yakuza 1. But it was a remake that was made after Zero was released, which is a prequel. And the prequel of Zero gives you a lot more details, and Zero was the first one to officially break the West.
That's the one that
fully.
I've got.
I would heavily suggest for a new introduction to the series starting at 0. I'm an awkward one. I started at 4, then played 3, then played 2, then played 5, then
What's
0,
the one,
then
what's
6.
the most recent one that's just come out? 6.
Kiwami 2 is the most recent, which is the remake of 2.
What's the one where he's looking after the baby?
That's 6. That's the last
Story of
Kiryu's
life.
story.
Because
That is the end of Kiryu's story.
Because I absolutely adore while watching gameplay of that, where it's just like, oh, you need to take the baby here, and so you just be carrying the baby.
Yeah, oh, it's when
And then out
someone
of nowhere,
starts a
someone
fight.
will be like, oh,
Yeah.
dude, you start a fight, and he'll just casually hand the baby to a random
random
crowd
passerby
member.
and just be like, look after him, and then start the fight.
It's great.
Parenting.
So, like, literally, what I love about Yakuza, just my final point in it, is how it handles everything with a dead serious face, regardless of how ridiculous it is. I
Yeah.
love that about it.
Another thing that's worth mentioning is in Yakuza 5, you play 5 different characters in that one, and one of them, I feel they just decided, fuck it, people love the karaoke minigame so much, let's make a character based around them, and you play an aspiring idol going up the ranks to stardom that ties
Excellent.
into the rest of it, because the entire Yakuza thing has their money tied into this entire idol thing.
Excellent.
My God.
They've cracked it. We've hit peak weeb.
Da-da-da. So,
And on that note, Alastair,
on that note,
I think we're done.
I think okay, that calls it for Yakuza then.
End of part 1.
No.
Full Metal Alchemist!
It's not early enough to split.
I doubt that's the end of part 1,
Nah,
to be honest.
No,
it's
no.
not.
I know.
So now
Newbie.
we're kind of like
Mochi!
Oh, gee!
yeah. Joe, go.
When did Adrian get here?
When did Verwin get here? Fucking Jesus.
I don't know about that yet, Lewis. No one knows
Best,
about that yet.
best, yeah, it's me. Oh, this is the first time I think I've ever made a joke that only you and I bet will get. Right,
That's
anyways.
great on this podcast that's been put on the
Yeah! Sorry, that's my fault.
internet. I'm kidding.
No, to Alistair, bleep me out there for that joke. It's just too
Yeah.
much.
Just bleep it out for the whole podcast.
Like this is massive white noise, and occasionally someone will make a really horrible joke. Everyone will go, "Oh," and then there's more white noise.
A testament to how much you fucking talk.
Oh, there it is. There it is. Like white noise. You talk too much. Oh.
Joe, your
Right.
game, sir.
So I'm bringing to the table Tales of Vesperia. We can talk a bit about the series in general, but I'm mostly focusing on this one mainly because it's getting its remake for next year, which is great for me. So it's your traditional JRPG style, like very JRPG. Really great focus on its storytelling. I don't know how detailed do you want me to go into stuff, guys? Like.
I've literally never even touched or seen anything of this, so
Is Vesperia the only one in the series where it lets you like randomly wander around the town and then build up relationships with people?
No.
Okay.
They're all open world games that you just go and talk and stuff.
No, I've never played Vesperia. I've played some of the others, but
Okay, well, originally it was an Xbox 360 exclusive for the West, which was why a lot of people probably haven't played, because most of the other games were PlayStation or DS, which was my introduction to the series, and I picked up on a complete whim, and I fell in love with it immediately.
I find it very interesting when Xbox gets a Japanese exclusive, considering that Xbox is near non-existent in Japan.
Mm.
Yeah, sorry, do continue.
So it's developed by Bandai Namco, or also just Atari. Like, it depends on which region you're in. They do it as I never knew they were the same ones, really. But
I didn't realize that Atari still existed.
yeah, it is. Basically, it focuses on the your main character is a swordsman called Yuri Lowell, and it starts off as a very basic, generic. Like he breaks into the castle one day, and the princess of the castle wants to get out, explore the world, and meet with a friend. But as I said, very generic. But the actual your focus is on the characters here. It's probably the best characterization I've ever seen for JRPGs. In fact, that not a single one of them is boring in the slightest. Yep.
That's interesting.
Do they have the typical, like, usually super annoying character that's usually used as the, like, either the mascot that gets irritating, or the whiny irritating kind of grates on you every time they speak. Eventually, it's like it was funny for 10 minutes, but Jesus Christ, just fall off a cliff.
I don't know character.
Almost, but they do avoid it quite well. Like, the princess character Estelle, she starts off as the generic airheaded princess who lives the sheltered life. Immediately, they swing that around, and it's just like they're dealing with a lot of crap, and they're really relatable for these things. Again, and they almost fall into trap with the whiny, annoying one with your next character, Carol, who is this kid who's part of a mercenary guild almost, but he's been kicked out of almost every single one because he is a coward, and and he is the whiny one. But it doesn't get that annoying for while you're doing it, and then they just bring him again right around. He becomes probably the third best character out of the crew of about. For the original Xbox version, that we got 7 main characters. The PS3 version that only got released in Japan got 9 characters, which we will be getting in the definitive re-release later, which is the main reason for me buying it, because
how the fuck do you add 3 extra characters? Surely that's like a whole rewrite of a game.
Basically, it was it got re-released in Japan with almost double the amount of voice-acted content, extra characters, extra team stuff. Yeah, like there's a few varying reasons as to why it wasn't released over here. Some people said that it was because they had a deal with Microsoft that they had to stay exclusive in the Western territories. They retracted that quite quickly. Apparently, that was just someone blowing their ass.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, apparently it just caused too much strain on the development team for them trying to release it simultaneously, re-releasing it simultaneously. But yeah, in terms of gameplay, it's open world JRPG exploration. You'll wander around the map, you'll encounter enemies, it'll then cut to a battle screen if you're on the world map, which is then done in a 2.5D plane, I'd say. Like, you can choose to go side to side fighter, or it'll let you run around up and down and do things. But every character has extremely different fighting styles, and it really lets you get to know each character and find the one that's best for you. Typically, I'll always end up playing your main character because it'll be your standard sword character who really likes good combos, which is really funny. And the game will teach you as you go on to really reward these learning these characters and getting a combo of unimaginable chains going. Right, what else to go for? Story-wise, it's as a JRPG, it'll keep you going for around about a good 40-50 hours of main story gameplay. If you're and that's if you're going at your average pace. Like, if someone who just comes in, plays it for a few hours each day, you stuff, don't binge it like I do. It's got, and again, without going too much into the story, the Telltale games have a really good NG Plus system, which they typically avoid in JRPGs because you're mostly there for the story. Throughout the game, you'll earn grade as you do well in battles. you can then carry that over. Like at the end of the game, you can choose certain things to carry through to the next game, whether that's items, weapons levels, your different arts, which are your character's special like moves that you do. And it'll let you divide that up so you can actually tailor your next playthrough to what you want to focus on, whether it's
I
the story.
quite like that, actually.
Yeah, it seems like an easy fix that most games could be doing. I'm gonna look at Dark Souls especially as being like fucking atrocious for that.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, drink. Fuck, what was that on?
It's alright. I feel like everyone's just listening to you drink.
Everyone's just quite
Right.
intently this. But I mean, jumping off that point, it must be said. Like, I cannot think of many games at all that have got good fucking New Game Plus systems. Like, I swear to God, New Game, because like, I get the idea that New Game Plus is like kind of stapled onto the end anyway. But good God, some of them are absolute shite.
Yeah.
Probably the best one I can think of is actually Dark Souls 2, which actually
Yeah, I was
changes the
going to
game
say
on.
that. Because it
Yeah,
Dark
actually
Souls 2's
changed
got
the
an
game.
oddly good New Game Plus system. Meanwhile,
Way
it's
of the
like.
Samurai.
Yeah, to be fair, actually, Way of the Samurai's got a good one where fucking Ben nearly got fucking trashed by Ben.
By Ben. Yeah, that's good.
I'm
But
just
it's like,
imagining Ben just like fighting a character, going, "Oh, for God's sake, this character won't die," then realizing he's just fighting himself.
It's a mirror.
probably the worst to my mind is something a game like Bloodborne, where the entire experience is based off of a primarily offensive-based play style, where you typically pick one weapon which has got multiple functionalities. If you want to play the game with the fucking burial blade, the blade you get right at the end of the game, tough shit, boy. You've now got to replay the entire game again, but rather than actually playing with the weapon that you want, rather than playing the situation that you want to, you just have to replay the entire game, and everyone's got more health and does more damage, and it's like.
Or play for
Yeah.
the first hour, unlock the chalice dungeon, and know the code to buy one.
Intended experience. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Read the visual novel.
Read
Sorry, that was really loud.
It's alright. Well, I found out, Lewis, you don't have neighbours. So
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't have neighbours. Thank fuck. I mean, yeah, thank fuck. I have empathy.
Did you kill them?
Yeah, I killed them with sound, a sheer wall of sound.
That just doesn't surprise me.
He just went Super Saiyan one day and their heads exploded. Just
Wanna
a la
see
Kingsman.
me turn into a Super Saiyan? God, that video is hilarious.
Just no.
Oh, have you not seen the video of that, Joe, where the guy turns into a flaming shoe and is like, God Super Saiyan, God Super Saiyan?
No, I have not.
You need to.
I'll look it up after.
A Kakarot gets shot to death.
Oh,
Anyway, but anyway,
so the Tales games.
Yeah,
It's
that
a
point.
series, right?
Also,
It's not just one game. It is a series of video games.
it's a
Yeah.
series, but they are they're not interconnected for the most part. The only ones that I know for definite, aside from the occasional homage, are the two newest ones, Tales of Zestiria and Tales of Berseria, which
Now-
take place in the same world.
And Tales of Zestria, if I remember correctly, is
Has
the
an
one
anime.
that has just released a couple of years ago, was on and animated by Ufotable.
Yes, Tales of Zestiria, Zakros, as they call it, which is somewhat faithful. They change quite a few aspects, but it was a pretty good watch, and as it's by Ufotable, looks amazing.
As stated in the Fate cast by Ben, who is unfortunately gone to the loo, I believe. So,
Yes,
We
Fate Stay
can-
Night,
can-
unlimited budget works.
well, as he said, with the Ufotable anime, you may not like the content, but you're going to enjoy watching it.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of. I don't know. I kind of looked at Tales of Zestria. I decided not to watch it, and I don't know.
I started
I-
watching it. I've
As-
seen like the first 3 episodes of it.
So my point is, I've never played a game. I've never watched the anime. I would like you, Joe, to sell this to me. Why should I get into the Tales series?
There is not a single boring main character, I would say. Like,
Okay.
you will always be invested in the story and their progression.
I
I mean that's true of the Nuremberg trials.
Thanks, Lewis.
Thanks, Lewis.
There's more white noise
Yeah, there's more white noise where that came from. See, that's the thing. If you hear nee, thanks, Lewis.
They're games that are extremely easy to sink your time into. Like they're not particularly grindy as JRPGs go, but unless you, like if you really want to do like all of the EX bosses, super bosses, stuff like that, there is a bit of it, but it never feels really grindy. It's good gameplay that you can actually really just get stuck into. You might be having something else on in the background while you do it when you get to the higher levels, and you can just breeze through your low enemies just because you're farming a certain material or something. But it never feels like, why am I doing this at all?
I mean that is unfortunately some of the major issues I have with some video games, where a lot with JRPGs I unfortunately have this problem where you do feel like the grind gets way too much.
Yeah.
So I believe
not the first time I think this will be referenced in this series of video games.
Well,
foreshadowing.
You do find that a lot with like JRPGs, is the fact that like you get that the way they've done the combat and whatnot, you tend to, once you've gotten to the halfway point of the game, the second half you tend to keep running to the same enemies again. They just have more health. It's just the same over and over and over and over again, and you just kind of like the combat itself just gets boring because you're kind of I'm fighting the same things again. Yeah.
I think it's Xenoblade Chronicles X that is the biggest, what shows off this problem biggest to me, which is where on the cover of the game there is a giant mech. In order to get said mech,
it takes ages
for like 20 hours.
Yep.
Yeah, and yet it's the poster of the fucking thing.
And so kind of like I like the concept, and I think you are selling to me of having a game that actually does not have the grind in such an extensive way. And even though it does have the grind, I've got enough investment in the story that I'm quite happy to go through that.
Yep. Another great point about it is it really does reward like your exploration. There's about 101 side quests that I never even conceived looking at like on my first playthrough, just because of how well hidden, not exactly hidden, but you'd have to think of like what's this character's relation to something else that happens, and it doesn't punish you at all for ignoring, for not doing them. It's just there's just so much flavor around, and it's kind of like a weird comparison, but your Dark Souls flavor text that comes with all of your items, it's not there if you do, it's there if you really want to see it. If you don't care about it, like
that voluntary level of inclusion in the plot is something we're very big fan of.
Yeah, just like you get to talk and interact to the final boss of Tales of Vesperia throughout the entire game, and he's not an enemy final boss, and he just gives great dialogue about the game, the world, the development across the entire thing, and you can completely miss talking to him once, even across the entire game, which I did. I had no idea for a while.
And so you have this entire character that actually is, because you are so engrossed in the world, is actually just completely missable.
Yep.
And I think that's almost a sign of a good game, though. A game where you can...
The exploration is rewarded.
You can miss things. Simply because you are enjoying looking. And I think another really good example of that is Breath of the Wild, where you cannot see everything in Breath of the Wild, unless you physically know it is there, because there is so much of it.
Which I would say also again gives an even better reason for replayability in the New Game Plus.
Breath of the Wild doesn't really need New Game Plus though.
It doesn't need it. No.
Well, because once it ends, it just kind of puts you. It doesn't end. It just puts you back.
Yeah, which a lot of open world games do tend to do, is they do, after you've defeated the final boss, it puts you back before the final boss mission to reset the world, in the sense of, now you can go and finish all the side quests that you missed.
Yeah,
which I will always admire the balls of B. Rob Omaba for not letting that happen.
Far Cry 3 is the biggest problem I have with that, where it's finish the final boss and you'll literally just you have the final cutscene, and then you're just standing outside of the main headquarters. It's just
Even
like,
when
well
you
done,
get
you
murdered
won,
by your
go.
sex priestess girlfriend.
Yeah, well
Yes,
done.
yes.
Off you go.
And you're just stood outside there, like, well, cool. I guess the gods favoured me.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
Man,
Te-
I
te-
feel bad for all those goats that woke up in that ditch with their throats slit and were like, well, fuck, guess I'm okay as well.
Why are we
Yeah.
back to talking about lawyers?
I don't know.
Oh,
The Tales of
Lewis,
Series.
you've now gone from jokes only 3 of us get to jokes only 2 of us get.
The Tales of Series does do that in the fact that if it'll give you.
what, it kills goats?
Yep, it kills goats.
Yep.
They are one of the main enemies.
Hey.
It's not a game if you can't kill a goat.
It's not a game.
Bloodborne 0 out of 10.
Do you know what? Okay, here. Do you know what I love about these sort of open world Japanese RPG style video games?
Mhm.
Porn.
I love the fact that Alastair, the decibel meter picture here.
Right, so
Yeah.
we've got the decibel meter. We've got the white noise streaming out. It's basically just a fairly civil conversation between Hugh and Joe, occasionally punctuated by Alastair with some really strange audio mixing.
But what I love is that in these sorts of open world sort of RPG things, you can just wander through somewhere that is. I just punched my headset out. You can just wander. You wander through these kind of giant open worlds, and you find these civilizations and these villages of these different kind of creatures and things that are just minding their own business, and then you just namely slaughter them.
Yep.
Because you need their hide for an item. It's like they've been there for thousands of years, and you just walk in, stab one in the gut, and sprout. Yes, I finally got that horn I needed, and walk off. The entire village just stood around this dead body, going, "What the hell was
Oh, I'm so
that?"
desperately trying to remember the game that actually does that. Where like there is a quest where you go and you're actually getting an item to upgrade something, or someone needs it for a quest or whatnot. And so you go in and you kill like all these creatures and stuff. And this guy just walks through and he's like, "What the fuck did you do?" And then it's like, "Well, I killed him for this item to make a better weapon." And it's like, what sort of fucking psychopath are you?
I believe that. I
You
think
just killed these peaceful things.
I
that
may-
were
Red
sat
Dead
there
Redemption
doing
with the
nothing.
Sasquatch.
You just kill the men. You
Oh,
kill
may
the
be-
women
there's
and the
the
children
Sasquatch in
too.
Red Dead. Yeah.
there's a Sasquatch in Red Dead. I may also be mistaken, but I believe Chrono Trigger also does something similar.
Yes, I think it is Chrono Trigger. Yes.
Because Chrono Trigger is the game as well, where you later get put on trial and you are judged for if you went through everyone's houses and rifled through their shit.
Yeah, if you
That's a
actually
good
go
one.
into people, if you take anything from anyone's houses, they do genuinely just like.
Like they testify against you for being a thief.
Yeah.
But- Oh,
It's
Chrono
fucking great.
Trigger's art by Akira Toriyama, the designer of Dragon Ball.
Oh yeah, Chrono does look a lot like fucking.
Yep, all the art was done by the Dragon Ball.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I can't believe I actually have only just realised that's a thing.
Wow.
I'm such an idiot.
It's okay.
Hey Joe, do you remember the time I went to go and visit your ancestors? They were very two-dimensional as people.
Yes, that was a cartoon.
Do you get it because
you get it?
funny joke?
Funny
get it?
joke!
Jenny,
Okay.
because they've been incinerated and blasted into a shadow on the side of a building.
Yes, I'm aware. I did used to have a,
heck.
I did used to have a house there. Yes.
Hmm.
Oh my
What?
word. We are not starting off with that.
What do you mean we're not starting off with that? We're recording. It's too late now.
Yeah.
Oh god.
FYI, my family is from Hiroshima.
Tales of-
actually.
It's
Yes.
a beautiful
Oh.
city.
They,
Now,
they
Tales-
moved a long time ago.
the beautiful
Never.
city. Now, the Tales games.
So, well, I think we've reached most of the points about it. Things to look out for in every game. There is the secret hot springs. Work hard to find them, people.
Secret hot springs.
Ooh,
Wait, what?
Very good.
Secret hot springs.
Okay.
Alice is suddenly more interested.
I know.
I mean,
Just a quick question. Sorry, go ahead, Alastair.
I mean, all I've so far, I have played the start of Tales of Berseria. It's like
Tales of Berseria is my favorite.
It's the
It's
one I
really
played.
good. It's great.
I haven't played all of it. I've probably played maybe the first 15 hours. of it.
Okay, so through the prologue, you'll have probably gone out of the prison. You're most likely at the Great Wall Gate.
You played 15 hours. Okay, so you finished the prologue and may have possibly broken out
I've
of
sailed
prison.
off on the ship and am going somewhere. No, wait, you're on the ship multiple times. That doesn't make sense.
The ship is your main mode of transport
I
in
know.
that game.
Let me think. I met the pirate people.
Yes, you've met one of the best. You've met the
Shall we
best
stop
character.
talking about a game that we're not going to talk about and that's making references to things no one has any clue what it's about?
Okay,
I just had a
But
quick
it's
question,
just,
missed
it's
it.
just,
Oh,
Eh.
no, you're quite right. Now is the time. I'll you just keep talking. Just keep talking.
Well, the only reason I said that is because the gameplay is going to be similar, so that's the only thing that it's like, oh, I have that as a comparison of how they play.
Yeah.
But that's
Gameplay is relatively similar. There's a few slight changes, but yeah, you've got it for the most part.
Yeah.
They keep it quite similar across most games.
What is the difference? Is it just the story?
characters and story essentially. Yeah.
Character story, there's a few slight changes. They made the combo system much more intuitive. Like, you have to know really what you're doing in the later ones, rather than you just get to string all the buttons together by getting certain abilities.
Okay.
Which I'm very much okay with, because it means once you really learn a character in Zestiria and Berseria, you actually feel like you really know them, and you'll
It's
be able to
like a
talk
proper
lot.
fighting game.
Yeah, almost. Like, it's
Like a
it's-
character action game, I'd describe it as more.
Yeah, more so. Other things that are just really good about I'd say, is your kind of not character customization, but you get really fun like costumes and stuff, and
You've shown me some of those.
Yeah,
What, you mean like the one called Ridiculously Small Black Bikini?
I'm not aware of this one, but yes.
Yeah, we're not cretins,
Yeah.
Ben.
Yeah, we
The
don't
issue
look at
the
one.
issue I always
This
have
is
with
like
those costumes.
one of the top image results for if you image search Tales of Vesperia.
Oh,
And
God.
yet you didn't immediately delete it from your mind.
The
What are you, a fag?
The problem I
Yes.
have with all of those kind of things is it doesn't matter as much in like the Tales series because it's not like based off an anime or something. But that's the issue I have with a lot of JRPGs, is if the game is based off an anime property, and they have all of those things of like you can have those add-ons and like all the weird glasses and hats and whatnot. I'm like, I don't want to put those on because that spoils like
My rustic estate.
that spoils the like continuity of the
put them on.
freaking world.
Somewhat, but the actual they work a lot of the different costumes into the actual game, especially in Vesperia. Like, some of them are side quest based, some of them are main story based, and occasionally it's just fun to charge the final boss when everyone is wearing fake moustaches and pipes.
Anyway, Lewis, you wanted to say something earlier.
I had a question about 9 years ago, if that's alright. It was just a small query, basically.
I was around 9 years ago. Yeah.
When a girl and a boy love each other very much.
Oh, God. Please don't say
Go-
girl and boy, as a teacher that triggers me.
Sorry.
no.
God.
Both teachers now shut the fuck up.
No, my question was, I don't suppose you happen to know if the artist of Dragon Ball was just the art director, or if he did all the art himself.
I'm pretty sure Akira Toriyama did all of it himself. Like, I think he did the entire manga continuing for all of it.
Okay, that's pretty cool. That's all I was wondering.
Mm-hmm.
Because he, despite everything, he's a very good character action artist.
That-
I think I'm pretty much done unless people have other questions. Yeah.
You sold me. You have sold me on the Tales games.
Would it be better as an anime?
No, for the level of depth they give to everything, I'd say it's better as the game, where you can just go at your own pace and spend a lot of time with it. For people who are interested, there is a prequel movie to Tales of Vesperia called Tales of Vesperia: The First Strike. It'll give you a quick introduction to three of the main characters' backstories, and is a general good watch. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Don't thank the audience; they should be thanking you.
I was about to say
I was
that.
I was thanking the four of you for listening, more dealing with my prattle. But
Shut the fuck up.
And at this point, we
Whoop.
realise that Alastair is not last for once.
Yay! Well, also, I think at this point, I'll probably do a split here.
Alright, Hugh,
Alright.
Hugh, do you want to lead in or lead out?
No, you do. You lead in. I'll lead out.
Yep, got it. Alright. Full Metal Alchemist.